So, hello and welcome to this week's episode. I'm your host, Marina Perry, and our guest today is actually a really old friend of mine and an amazing human. And his name is Trav Bell, and he is known globally as the bucket list guy. He is the creator of the bucket list methodologies, philosophy, and he's going to unpack for us what that is and potentially why we should definitely all have a bucket list. I think that's where he's going to push us towards. And I'm really excited to talk about how that all applies right now in the current climate. So, Trav, thank you so much for joining the episode this week.
Yeah, Marina, stoked to be on. Great to catch up again.
Yeah, it's been too long. Now, listen, before we dive into all the bucket list juiciness, I would love to know which animal of all the animals best represents your personality or way of being.
Oh, well, it's a good question. Is this spirit animal or just real animal?
I'll tell you, honest to goodness truth. I used to say spirit animal, and then someone said to me, "You can't say that anymore." And I find there's so many things we can't say anymore. So I just say which animal
Look,
is
no,
like your
I don't
I know.
know. Let's go with I'd like to say wolf, but probably everyone says that. Lone wolf out there in the countryside. Anyway, now look, I'm a Taurian. If you get into that sort of stuff, I'm a Taurian born in the year of the ox, so that probably doesn't help.
Wow.
Well, it's probably pretty obvious.
And so then, given that, is that because what are the traits that you think match you up?
I'm a stubborn prick.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Love your honesty, Trav. Love your honesty.
Yeah.
All right. And then if you could have a superpower, which superpower would you choose and why?
I'd like to look into the future.
Cool. I've actually never had anyone say that.
I didn't even think that through. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool, I reckon.
Yeah, I think, and you know what, especially right now, I would probably piggyback on that because we are in really uncertain, unknown, interesting times, as we all like to say. Now,
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
tell everyone about, well, first of all, tell them how you came to be known as a bucket list guy, but in that journey, please share with us what a bucket list is.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been the bucket list guy for about 10 years now. So it's been a long, long journey. But before that, as you know, Marina, because you're in the health and fitness industry, and as was I. So I was the first to franchise personal fitness training studios in Australia. So it started with one client, end up with tens of thousands of clients across Australia, with studios in Queensland, New South Wales, and also here in Victoria. And I'm in Ocean Grove, Victoria, just an hour and a half out of Melbourne right now. And tens of thousands of clients, over 2 million personal training sessions over 20 years. But I had there were some toxic people in my life, some business things, all compounded to create a bit of a downward spiral for myself. And I slipped into a mild state of depression, which a lot of people don't know. And when I say mild, I'm comparing myself to what other people have gone through. It was relatively mild. But instead of going on heavy sort of antidepressants, which is kind of like a Band-Aid, I found myself in personal development courses where we met and we did NLP and life coaching, and we did, I studied Akagi principle, positive psychology, law of attraction. If you put on a course back then, I reckon in that year and a half, I would have run to the back of the room, upgraded again. But,
Yes.
And it wasn't until about a year sort of into that, a friend of mine said, "Why don't you teach this stuff?" And it sort of helped me compartmentalize what I was going through. I'd worked through a lot of stuff, in my own head, getting to the real root cause of my own psychology and what was kind of holding me back, and working through that, then putting on a talk, which I had to sum up all the courage to do. And for me, on reflection, it was the big domino that I had to push over in my life to put on that first talk, as nervous and scared as I was. Put on a talk, nearly had to pay the 40 people to come along to that talk. And during that talk, packaging everything I learned, all my entrepreneurial journey, I'd started personal training back in the early 90s, when there wasn't an industry of personal trainers. That was my first kind of business straight out of university, third year university, I set it up. And anyway, this first presentation that I did, this first event, I started sharing the fact that I had a list to do before I die, actually written down since I was 18. And this is, again, only 10 years ago. So a lot of people, I'm 47 now, a lot of people didn't know this about me. So I started sharing this list, and I said, who else has got one of these lists to do before you die actually written down? I was like, nah, donuts. I was the only freak in the room. So I said, well, why do you get out of bed in the morning? What do you want to earn more time, more money? You know, but what's your tangible why? And then it really inspired the group, started sharing some stories. And then Joe, one of the participants at the time, said, how's the list set right at the end? How's the list to do before you die stuff? It's really inspired and motivated us. It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy. I went home that night and registered the bucketlistguy.com. And 10 years later, I'm still, you know, they say go an inch wide, a mile deep, instead of an inch deep and a mile wide. And I guess I've stayed with those guardrails up and those blinkers up for this past 10 years and just gone deep on that thought leadership, and really helped a lot of people through this kind of personal development framework to live a more fulfilled life. And I've certainly done that in myself as well.
Yeah, I love
There you
that
go.
story. I love that story, Trav. And I do want to unpack a few things, but before, just with what you mentioned about a downward spiral and the fact that we are in a culture that tends to band-aid and deal with symptoms as if they're the cause. But before we do that, I just want to know, so just for the listeners, a bucket list is writing down a list of things that you want to do before you die. And
yeah, it is. It's the conscious. It's intentional living. It's intentional. It's putting intention behind what you want to do in your life. As you know, Marina, like a lot of people don't even write goals down, let alone bucket list. And we've got a 42% more likelihood of actually manifesting if you just write stuff down. I mean, people in your community would be all over this, no doubt, because of who you are as a coach. But for the large majority, they don't even write goals down. And you go into a company, you do a keynote, and you say, write your goals down, write your bucket list. It's like you've discovered fire. Oh my God, this is, and it's the easiest of things to do. But what's easy to do is easy not to do, right? And so a bucket list isn't just about writing a whole bunch of cool things down. It's really, in the essence, it's really how a person reverse engineers every aspect of their life in order to make this stuff come to fruition. It's really about the growth of the person on the journey towards these self-imposed destinations. More importantly, it's about the person that exists on the other side, the person that we don't know yet. And that's called our potential. And that's what I want people who are listening and watching to get really curious and excited and inspired about, because people are dying at 40 and being buried at 80. People are existing, not living. People living by default, not by design. So my whole thing, I want to wake people up before they get given a use by date. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And I love that something you just said, I think is super powerful. And so I'm just going to repeat it, that it's easy. Something that's easy to do is easy not to do. I think there's actually more wisdom in that than perhaps we even realize at this point, just hearing it. I've never heard it said that way, but I understand what you're really saying. And yet it is those little things that do make the major difference, isn't it? And you and I think in the spaces that we operate in, I don't know if you've noticed this, and I certainly have, people will spend more time and energy in researching the kind of car they want to buy, or the 2 weeks off they get in the year, like the planning that goes into that holiday. But then when it comes to, as you said, intentional living around their life, their overall direction, their personal identity on the journey of their beingness, it's like we black out or something. So why do you think that so many people, like you said, it's like you brought fire to
discovered fire.
Write down what you want to do in life. Why do you think we're so asleep when it comes to our lives as a big picture? Because I think that we sometimes get so caught up in the little things, like on social media, and I mean, look, I love the jokes as well. The guy who's in the chair with the mittens, what's his name? I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
We're so focused on it. The memes start and everything starts, and we like go right into that. But it's like, if you ask most people, what do you want? Where are you going? What's calling you next? They just blank faces.
Yeah, look, I've got. How long is this podcast? Yeah, this is it. um, Look, we're so. Here's the deal. We've been getting busier and busier and busier, and we're so busy on our daily to-do list that we forget about our bucket list until something traumatic or dramatic happens to us or a loved one. You know, it's funny how my job here, if you can call it a job, named mission, is to help people separate the two. Because I say a bucket list is a tangible life plan, where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan and not be the other way around. So this is really bringing home the work to live principle. So let's put it into that context. Look at our jobs, our businesses, our careers. It should produce two things, right? Cash flow and also time flow to allow us to go and do the things that we really want to do. The time and the money are just the side effects, the ripple effects of an optimized vehicle, whatever that might be. I think a double bonus though, if you actually love what you do, you're passionate, hits your values, which is your internal rule book, and you're of service to the community, you're of service to other people. I think that's the holy grail, right? You love what you do and it's producing what you want for you and your family to experience before their time is up. And so there's a lot of people that can't actually say that they have that going on. So this might be a bit of a perspective shift. I do a lot of stuff in America. 89% of people who go to work every day in America are what they call disengaged, right? It's not that much different in Australia. It's 69% in Australia. So that they're called disengaged. They're not engaged. They go to work every day and they're a hamster on the treadmill, Groundhog Day. And they're just collecting the paycheck, coming home, and they're uninspired, and the movie The Bucket List, which most of us have probably seen, is bullshit, because it's about, and I based my whole career on it, it's about two blokes that get given a cancer diagnosis and then they write a bucket list, which is incredibly stupid. So we want to write this stuff down, which is a consciousness process. We've got a 42% more likelihood of actually, showing up if you just write stuff down. So you might as well just write it down. When you are writing it down, only worry about the what and the why, not about the how. A lot of people don't write stuff down because of maybe disappointed themselves in the past, right? And they don't want to do it again, or fear of success and fear of failure, the same psychological makeup. So at the end of the day, I encourage people just to do the simplest of things. Take some time out of your life to work on your life, separate your daily to-do list from your bucket list, and think of your daily to-do list as simply you optimizing that vehicle on a day-to-day basis so you can do the stuff that you really want to do with you and your family and live a more meaningful, purposeful, fulfilled, more grateful life. That's what it's all about, with no regrets.
Yeah. So everyone who's listening to this podcast, I'm going to invite you to do exactly what Trav just suggested. And the next time you've got 5 minutes spare, instead of scrolling on social media, even if it's in the notes section of your goddamn phone because you just want to look at a screen, write down a list, because what he says is so true. The subconscious mind, we forget how powerful it is. And the number of times even, well before, I knew you as the bucket list guy, and well before we even had Pinterest or any social media, I remember I used to cut out pictures from magazines and create little vision. They weren't goal books to me. They were actually just
vision boards. And
they were just like things that inspired me, whether it was fitness, fit people in beautiful places, or an ad for a car. And I remember, and I tell this story, I loved marketing too back in the day. And I cut out this picture of this 4-wheel drive that was coming around the corner of this seaside cliff, and it was in a blur, so you couldn't actually see the car. But I loved the tagline, and I still remember it. The tagline was, "What you buy is a car, what you get is goosebumps." And I just thought that was such a great slogan. So I had the car and had this thing in there. Fast forward maybe 10 years, probably in my late 20s. I remember kind of deciding which cars to get. And, cars don't really light me up. So it was even interesting that there was a car in the book, but I had totally forgotten it. Anyway, and my sister was talking, I was like, I don't like anything that I can really afford. And she's like, well, why don't you get a better car that's secondhand? And I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. So long story short, I got this car that I really liked, which was a Lexus 4-wheel drive. And then it was only when I was going through something, moving house, that I found this book, and that ad and that actual car was that exact make and model.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Interesting, because
Yeah.
this is the way the subconscious mind works. So I want to just back up Trav. And, I'm really big for the listeners, because it's not about hearing him. You could listen to Trav and you'll be inspired. You will be activated. But if you don't take action on that inspiration and activation, then, his magic's wasted. So
Yeah.
write a list. Now, Trav, can you give us some guidance? Like, say someone's like, I don't even know what I want, because there are people who are like, what would I put on my list?
Yeah,
Can
for
you give us
sure.
some guidance around that? Like, where do we start? Do we start little things, big things, anything?
Yeah, look, I did a TED talk a few years ago, and I've just released the book, the My Bucket List Blueprint, and it's pretty much a blueprint for how to write a personally meaningful and and holistic bucket list. It helps you sort of go north, south, east, west in your own brain, and helps you extract and articulate this list. And it's very different.
We'll link to the book, and we'll link.
Yeah, for sure. But first, I want to just back it up and say that just the process of actually just writing stuff down, all right, as simple as this is right now, I want you to write some stuff down. If you're watching and listening to this now, just grab a pen and paper. Remember the old days when we used to have these things called pen and paper? I know it's so analog, but there's actually research that suggests that if you write stuff down, there's more of a conscious process in writing it down, because it takes you more time than actually typing into your phone, believe it or not, or into a Google Doc, believe it or not. So at the end of the day, write some stuff down. Now, when we're writing stuff down, I want you to think about what you're doing is you're actually punching your bucket list into your Google machine, which is your brain. All right. And NLP will teach us that, we can't take in that much information. So we need to decide and generalize and really isolate those search terms. So what are those search terms? What are those search terms that you're putting into Google right now? Let's call it a bucket list. All right. And these are really personal things to you. Forget about what everyone else has done. Forget about comparing your list against someone else's. Mine's bigger than yours. Mine's more extreme than others. Like, forget about all that. Judgment-free zone. And I encourage everyone to do this. And I'll go through a little bit of a format for you, but do one for yourself. And this is honestly, and in this day and age, in the year that we've just had, this has been the light at the end of the COVID tunnel for a lot of people. That honestly has, because really, like a lot of people don't know, most of what I've taught over the last 10 years, it's really based on positive psychology, which is performance-based psychology rather than regressive. You need help to be normal psychology, which no one wants to be normal, not in your group anyway. But so I want to use these principles to help you experience more meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in your life. We just put this brand of bucket list over the top of it. But we need to start typing some stuff into Google right away. All right. So at the end of the day, so the My Bucket List Blueprint is something that I created to help people get a sense of achievement, like straight away, like immediately. Because going back to your question, we live in a delayed gratification society. I'll be happy when syndrome, waiting for the perfect time or someday to come around, and someday ain't a day of the week. All right. People are waiting until they sacrifice their happiness now to enjoy later. Our whole superannuation retirement system is built around that. Or 401k in America, I'll be happy when, I'll do all my bucket list then. No, I'm into instant gratification now, not in a hedonistic way. But if you look at the stats, this is the big picture. If you look at the stats with depression going through the roof, the overprescription of antidepressants, anxiety, suicides, youth suicides, and we've even got this thing now called the loneliness epidemic, which is a thing, right? We know what a pandemic is. Hello, COVID, but an epidemic is hot on its heels. Is the adverse effect of social media. So we're all comparing our behind the scenes footage with someone else's highlights reel on social media, and it's having a dramatic mental health effect on us. It's called loneliness. We think we're more connected, but we're actually more disconnected. Now, this is frightening. So by doing a bucket list, I firmly believe, and I've got 10 years of history of doing this, I firmly believe this will help people be happier now and hopefully change the narrative going on right now in terms of these statistics. If you're heading down that path, we've helped people maybe right place, right time, who are on suicide watch, Marina, who are going through depression just like I was. And I built this thing for me, to help the former me, to coach the former me. So real quick, the My Bucket List Blueprint, I did this in the TED Talk. I do it from stage. You've seen me present it to some of your crew, and I'll go through it. But if people grab themselves a book or watch a TED Talk, I literally want you to write this stuff down and send it to me. Right? This is us holding you accountable. All right. So it stands for M, My Bucket List. So if you look at it as an acronym, it's a 12-step acronym. Sounds a little bit like AA, 12-step program. But M stands for Meet a Personal Hero. Y stands for Your Proud Achievements. B, Buy That Special Something. U, Ultimate Challenges. Excuse me.
So what would an ultimate challenge be, Trav, just as an example for someone? Would that be like running a marathon?
Okay, so yeah, could be. Right now I'm doing an ultimate challenge, which is reading 52 books in a year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a big challenge.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that, my book started off as like War and Peace, like really small font, and now they're getting up to like Mr. Men and Mr. Tickle. It's like if you got a 1-page ebook, bring it. I can just cross it off. Ultimate challenges, buy that special something. C, conquer a fear. It might be public speaking, it might be spiders, whatever it is. But on the other side of fear is another you that you don't know about yet. K, kind acts for others. So this is what really rounds out. So a lot of people think of bucket lists as all the travel adventures that you want to do around the world, but this helps people, as you're probably seeing, helps people think, I can do that now. I can do that now. It doesn't require a lot of time and money. In fact, a lot of effort. And those small wins, that gives you the momentum and motivation to smash through the bigger ones. It's about choosing happiness. Kind acts for others. E, express yourself. This is the creative part of you. T, take lessons. What some skills that you want to learn before your time is up. A lot of people are doing this stuff at the moment in lockdown, in quarantine, with restrictions. L, leave a legacy. This is a big one. How do you want to be remembered after your time is gone? I, personal favorite of mine, idiotic stuff. Because I know that when people grow up, they get all serious. It's like, I know there's a 21-year-old backpacker still in you. S, satisfy a curiosity. What do you want to taste, touch, smell, feel, experience before your time is up? And T, last one, the most obvious one, stands for travel adventures. So good luck. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And you know what I love about that? And this is probably the next thing I wanted to talk about is, and you've touched on it already. I hear from a lot of people who feel like at the moment, like normal goals, like people who are goal setters, like, oh, they have every year they have a word or they kind of have a goal. And right now they're like, Marina, I kind of feel like I can't even stake my claim because I don't know if I can travel to Bali this year, or I don't know if it's a good time to open a business. What if it gets shut down? Like at the moment, there's no denying that a lot of our traditional, like standard freedoms are not available to us, even if we were willing to take them. I agree with you. Lots of people are dead at 40 and buried at 80. There are a lot of people who don't take a lot of those, opportunities when they're available, but right now they are actually limited. So what I love about what you just shared is it does show you that you can do grand acts of kindness. You can learn things, and that those are things that can be on a bucket list. It's not always, I think, like you're saying, a big misconception that I feel people would believe about bucket list is always the travel, go see or go do.
That
was really, I loved that. And I have heard it before, you're right, but it's a long time. So I was like, oh yes.
It gives people real hope that they can start crossing stuff off. And again, the classics are, do a marathon, climb a mountain somewhere, and jump out of a plane. All right, well, that's on a whole other list for some people. That's called the bucket list. I don't want to fucking do that. So at the end of the day, it's pretty funny. Like when I go and present, and I've presented some of the, all sorts of rooms around the world, and I know, you know, when I go up on stage, as you've seen, I've got a video clip, looks like a Red Bull commercial of all me doing all stuff, and I know that most of the people are sitting in the audience going, "Fuck that, I don't want to do any of that shit." And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You know, stop comparing yourself against someone else.
Mm.
This is an opportunity. What I was going to say before, this is an opportunity for you to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help others. This is a self-leadership lesson. Be the example for others to follow. Be a bucket lister. Be a bucket lister kind of parent. Be a bucket lister kind of partner. Be a bucket lister leader of your business. So you'll start, because it has a massive flow-on effect. You be the example for others to follow, as Gandhi said. Is you want to be that example, be that person and we need you, because in times like this, we need you to step up. We need you to be a bucket lister, be that kind of person that is people love catching up with. You know, you feel enriched, you feel glass half full, positive, versus the type of person that you when you catch up with them, you feel like you need a wash or a holiday afterwards, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So this is a way in which you can go and live your life by example. You know, not just talk about it, but live your life by example. I'm doing 5 things on my bucket list right now. It doesn't mean you have to do one thing and then the other, and stop living with the freaking blinkers on, you know, like just about travel. It's one of 12 components to this. So that's not your bucket list. In fact, travel is the thing that requires the most time and the most money, and I'll probably do it later on in my life because Machu Picchu just ain't around the corner. So that requires a bit of it. But what can you do now? How can we get happier now? That's what it's all about.
And, you know, going back to how you kind of kicked us off, and we've touched on a few times since then, is, you know, that you said you use this yourself personally, but also for people with depression, or right now, you know, people going through COVID, who are feeling really low. And I feel like and you said it's to give them hope, but when we start to live with intention, it really is, it's an activation of our own inner light, isn't it? Because you're choosing where to shine your light. And I forget what that old quote is, you know, we all need someone to love or something to do and something to look forward to. And I feel like this is kind of potentially kicking one of all 3 of those, or at least 2 of those at one time. And it's kind of saying, with my life, what do I choose? And that's where we get our power back, isn't it? Because right now, if people are feeling powerless, it's really about saying, well, you know what? What's the recipe you've always wanted to learn to cook? Like, just claim it. And in the claiming of it, suddenly you have your power back. It doesn't have to be big things. So the question I wanted to ask you was, you've heard a lot of people's bucket lists, I'm sure. And so what would be, if you could share with us as an example, because I think sometimes people go, you know, we are, as you said, blinkered into our own frame. What would be some of the most simple, but maybe different kind of bucket lists you've heard, things that aren't done?
Look, I'm in a fortunate position over the last 10 years to have collected. I get sent, you know, I get tagged on social media, sent GoPro footage, sent video footage, sent photos, some inspiring, some absolutely crazy, some sometimes even illegal, some I don't. I put a disclaimer out there: it's your bucket list, not mine. I didn't make you do it, but we've got a group on Facebook called #BucketListers, and in there everyone shares their bucket lists. And in fact, I'm on the hunt for people who read the book that you can actually, you know, go through the book, go through the blueprint. I just want you to really abuse this book as well, like really, like dog ear it and carve it up, and then at the end there's a little link that you can send me your bucket list, and I'm on the collection rampage of 365 bucket lists. Maybe that's book number 2. I don't know. But I need 365 very different bucket lists. And I've done this with people that are, you know, all walks of life, all around the world, different languages. But everyone gets it, you know, different income levels, different backgrounds, and this sort of thing. So, look, what's one I can share? Geez.
I didn't even think that would be a bucket list. Anything.
Look, okay, so I'll give you an example of the ripple effect, of how. So there was a guy who came to one of my earlier events, and I used to run an event called the Bucket List Experience, And this guy was basically put in a headlock. His name was Cam, put in a headlock by his mate. They were both bikers. And this guy sat at the back of the room for 3 days, just like this. He's a big guy. He was 170 kilograms, right? Diabetes, adult onset diabetes. He was an alcoholic. He smoked. He was in a job that he hated. He really didn't have any friends outside his biking community, motorbike community. He's kind of angry at the world and didn't persist, you know. And his mate came along, I knew him, and he came along and he just sat in the back, just going, "Oh, this is bullshit," you know. And in those events, I get everyone, make everyone actually take action on their bucket list, you know, book in for something, pay for something, you know, launch something. And so Cam sat there for 3 days, and his mate Simon's going, come on, let's go. And he's like, no. I said, last break was the last day, last break in the afternoon. And I said, Cam, you've been sitting here for 3 days, mate. Just do something, just for me, just so I feel better about myself. You know, forget you, forget Simon. Just do it for me, please. He's like, oh, see what I can do. All right, go out, come back in. And he goes, yeah, see, done it. I go, what'd you do? And he's smelling the smoke. And I'm like, what'd you do? He goes, see, I told you. You know, I entered a 5K run. I went, dude, whoa, didn't expect that. I go, I reckon you're bullshitting me. So have you got proof? He said, yeah, look at my phone. It's got a confirmation email, because I asked for proof, because people can talk. All right. I said, yep. All right. Confirmed. All right. You're going to do it? He said, all right. Well, yeah, I'm doing it. But something happened in that moment. You know, there was something unconscious about what he wanted to change, but didn't bring it to the surface until he was pushed, until we created that, you know, that boiler room. So long story short, he entered the wrong run to the G, which is the run to the MCG, 100 and whatever thousand people that can, and you run into the G and you do a lap and you see yourself up on the big screen. And Cam did it. He trained a little bit for it, not too much, but he had the participation T-shirt. He was a big guy, and he sort of ran, walk kind of thing. Participation T-shirt, and the big medal that they give you at the end. He come through. His family was in the bleach. Some of his mates were in the bleachers in the grandstand. They're going, "What the hell is this guy doing?" You know. And I was there that day, and he came across, and I could see a smile that I haven't seen before. I'm like, something started to change here. On that day, he entered his first 10K run. At the end of his first 10K run, he entered a half marathon. True story. At the end of his half marathon, guess what? Entered the full. At the end of the full, he entered his first triathlon. At the end of his first sprint-based triathlon, he entered an Olympic-based triathlon, then a half Ironman, and then the big one, the full Ironman. Over the space of about three or so years, he had to learn how to run. He had to learn how to sit on a bike, how to do everything, how to swim. He could swim, and in that journey, he changed he got off the drink. He got off the smokes. All his vitals went down into a healthy zone. He lost, he was still, I think it was 115 kilograms when he raced the Ironman. Wow. Right? So he lost a shitload of weight. New circle of friends, new job, more income, better friends. Simon's still his best mate. And just amazing transformation, to the point where Simon, a few of the people that I knew around Cam, went to be a catcher, which is what you are at the end of a full Ironman triathlon. And he came in at 11:45 p.m., 15 minutes before shutdown. They shut the course down at 12 midnight. He came in, he was bleeding, chafing. It was just, it was ugly. And he's just, absolutely changed his life. Yeah. And he still attributes that moment of just forcing him to do something that really helped him on that journey. Right place, right time, maybe. But the ripple effect was just amazing.
And I mean, that is the ripple in his world as well. But what I love is that momentum is your friend, but it's also your foe. And as you mentioned before, it's easy not to do the easy thing. And so, so many of us, and even at the very beginning, you were using the language of, you were in a spiral, and we're all spiraling. We're just either spiraling up or down. And I really feel like the bucket list is a really easy, fun, super tangible ladder to get people in the right spiral direction.
Because when you say goals, it freaks people out. But when you say bucket list, and this is the bit of a ninja under the radar kind of thing that we do for companies around the world and individuals, we say bucket list. Oh yeah, that I want to do this and this and this. You don't tell them their goals. Because it takes into all the SMART goal, setting principles and that sort of thing, because they're very specific and measurable, and they're a success marker as well. And that's really important.
And so earlier you touched on, people have a fear of success and a fear of failure, which is where goals, as you just kind of pointed out, I think trips people up, because it is a pass fail kind of, mentality. So when you say, the fear of success and the fear of failure, or ultimately it's the fear of change, isn't it? Because as you mentioned, lots of circumstances aside from his health shifted. But what do you think is if you were to distill it down, having worked with thousands of people around a bucket list, having people either dive into it or feel resistant to it, and noticing those distinctions, what do you think is the biggest reason that people either stay on that hamster wheel stuck in the job they don't like, or they dive in and suddenly get momentum going? Like, what's the key, or what's the thing that if someone's listening, it's like, either focus on getting this sorted, because this seems to be the big thing that makes the difference?
Well, yeah, there's two reasons. One is people are fed up with being fed up. When just so happens, with personal development, Marina, you're either there at the right time, right place, right time for a lot of people. And with personal development, you're kind of just throwing shit at the wall, and you're seeing what sticks. I can do a keynote presentation, say 20 things, and someone will go, "Oh, that story about you and your dad, that was it just got me, and it was just absolutely amazing." And someone else will be like, "Did you tell a story about you and your dad? I didn't even." But the thing that you said about that, and so you don't know what sticks, and that's, I think, the beauty of personal development. You're not saying you should, you must, you have to, you need to live your life in a certain way. You're just sort of presenting a smorgasbord of ideas, and they map which ones they want to map into their life at that point in time. A lot of people around the fear of success is breaking the ecosystem that they're a part of, right? And that's the fear of success, and the fear of failure is, as mammals, if we break out of our role, the movie role that we're playing in our life's movie, and we're out of character, then that's going to upset our family, isn't it? It's going to upset our friends, and that's scary as hell. Being isolated as a mammal is one of the scariest things. That's why a lot of people don't break the cycle of their peer group, of their family. And so stepping out of that, very, very uncomfortable, scary. But for those that kind of either stretch that and stay out there, or snap that string and get out and go outside, that could be the happier place for them. But a lot of people go out, this from weight loss and stuff, they go out, they stretch that comfort zone, but they're recoiled back because unconsciously they want to feel safe and loved and accepted by their peer group and their family. So we think as human beings, if we snap that cord, so to speak, that umbilical cord, that we're not going to be, safe and loved and accepted and that sort of thing. So I want to just tell everyone out there that if you check in with yourself and you are not fulfilled, you haven't got meaning, purpose, in your life, and you want to be a bucket lister, and these are all great ideas and you want to go for it, but there's something holding you back, just know there is another herd running at a faster pace, and they're waiting for you to catch up, right? So get on with it, right? Because we're waiting for you. Hurry up. And that's why we have the School of Growth and Marina's group, hurry up. We're running at a faster pace. We're looking for people like you to get over that and start running with us. And so that's that fear of success, fear of failure. So check in with yourself. Out of 10, am I fulfilled? Fulfillment, yep. This might be the absolute icing on the cake, because you've got a happy life, and that's totally cool. But for people who have found themselves looking at a gap between where you are now and where you want to be in terms of this fulfillment scale, then get the book, get in the groups, get involved and start to take real action. Don't just think about it anymore. Start to take real action. Otherwise, shut the hell up and stop bitching about your lot in life.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, well, action is the key, isn't it? And I love what you said there about, because ecology is going to be our biggest block for so many of us, because we're loving creatures. And you're right, there are plenty of herds, and generally if anything falls away, it's because you choose it ultimately on that next layer level that you don't yet know about. So Trav, what would you say, because obviously you've talked a lot about personal development, and you and I are both 100% committed to that individually, and therefore we teach it and share it and help others with it too. But if you were going to think back, what would be the book or a couple of books, because I know you've read a lot and you're reading just 52 this year, holy moly. But if you were going to go, Marina, that was really pivotal in my life, that book or that book, like if you were going to direct someone listening to your favorite book or books, which would you call out?
Damn it, this question. Mind you, all these books I've never read. They're just a fake Zoom background.
Yeah, just to make you look smart.
It's all shelf help. Yeah. By the way, you don't have to read this. This is feel the fear and do it anyway. Don't read, just do it anyway. Don't need to read it. But I honestly think if we're talking about personal development rather than business texts and biographies and that sort of thing, which I also like, I think this was a very pivotal book called Happier by Tal Ben-Shahar. And this was actually he worked under Martin Seligman, who is arguably the father of positive psychology, right? So in there, and this was given to me by a friend at the time where I was that guy that people needed a wash or a holiday after catching up with me. I was just dumping on the world and what I was going through, and she's just gone, here's a book on happiness, you miserable bitch. Read that, and I think it might help. I'm like, thanks. But it was really right place, right time. And it's funny, isn't it? Because you look back, I read it now, I'm like, what the hell was I going through? But in there, he's got this really cool thing that really changed. It was one of the pivotal moments in my life, and it's called the MPS process. And it's 3 intersecting circles in a diagram. What gives you M? What gives you meaning? What gives you pleasure? And what are your strengths? And in the middle is your calling, right? And they overlap. And I did this exercise, and I got motivational speaker, literally motivational speaker. I'm like, is that I'm meant to do this? Like that's just super weird. But that helped me cement what I was meant to do from here on. So that was a really good book, and it's all about like happiness is the ultimate currency.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. Yeah, happiness is the ultimate currency. Look, I'm going to go to Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week as well. At that time, this is because I got out of my gyms, out of my personal training studios, and I had a burden of like leases, all the corporate leases all around Australia, and this idea of back in the day of running shit from a hammock in Thailand seemed like a great idea. So that really gave me a concept around freedom and working online, and it was around the same time as I went with the bucketlistguy.com, and this whole online world was really starting. Now it's just every business is online. But I've had one of the things on my bucket list that I was really proud of ticking off was I actually had a sit down lunch with Tim Ferriss when he came to Melbourne. And the great thing is he's a really cool guy. So 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss. Another one, third one would be, oh dear. God, I don't know. Got heaps. There's heaps. I don't know. I'll just say my own. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we'll link to that and to the other two as well. That's
yeah.
Awesome. Now,
that'd be easier.
Trav, I want to ask you, just because something keeps coming back as a thread here, and I really feel this is alive for a lot of listeners, this being stuck in the safety of the mundane. And you kind of mentioned it earlier, and then you mentioned that you left a really successful, structured, potentially hectic PT kind of world, and changed. Like, if you were going to speak, say we had someone on live now and they were like, I really hate my job, but it pays the bills. And I don't know how I'll pay the bills without them. And I don't really know just kind of in that state, but they don't necessarily know what they want to do. What would be your advice to them? How do you know it's time to just let go, or do you let go, or is it best what would be your advice? I'll just shut up.
Really, yeah. Like I probably like you, Maria. I have these conversations every day with people, and what I do is, number one is I would find I would unsubscribe from everything right now. Right, unsubscribe, unfollow a lot of people. There's just too much information right now, and we all suffer from infobesity, right? So you're getting fatter on information, and that stalls your decision-making process and your focus. You're too scattered. But then resubscribe to the people. I'll give you 4 people, 3 people, challenge you, 3 people that you love what they do. Maybe it's a career. You can do this in every area of your life, by the way. So if it's a health, subscribe to 3 people. I'll give you 4, because we want to put around a boardroom table, right? There's 4 sides to a table, let's say, and they're going to become your board of directors. So subscribe to 4 people in that area that you want to excel in. So call it health, wealth, relationships, business. Subscribe to 4 people, and follow them. Read their stuff. Read their bios. They might be accessible or not accessible. They might be alive or dead. They might be on social media or not. But just drill into their psychology and follow what they do, not where they are now, but where they came from. All right. So you can follow their journey, understand their mindset. Now, they might be doing something that you really want to do, and that's cool. So, 1, understand them. Offer, if you can, offer your time and your network to them so you can be an intern. All right. And really understand how they think and how they got to where they are. And a lot of young people, especially, this is advice that I'm giving to my kids and to a lot of young crew, like, be an intern. Like, you've got time and network, a younger network possibly, that they don't have.
Yeah.
Go and promote their stuff, hang around them, offer them to do something for them. Not a lot of people offer that because they're too proud. They got too much ego in the way. So forget all that, just ask. And secondly, find some flexibility in what you're doing right now. And right now we're all working from home a lot more. We've got our work, the definition of work-life balance, which is a bullshit 80s term, should never been used because nothing ever balances. But our definition of what I call work-life blend has changed forever, and everyone's is different. So now we've got an inbuilt ability to be flexible on our 9 to 5. If you don't like it, we'll find some flexibility. Can you stay at home more? Can you work from a co-working space more? Can you elect to do certain things? Can you contract versus being employed? Look for that flexibility and have that awkward conversation, that conversation that you've been thinking about having for a long time. Have it like immediately. Try and find some flexibility. And then when you get that and you get some bandwidth, then I want you to start thinking about what is going to be that side hustle. What are you going to migrate towards, maybe? All right, start it and start it now, and start making cash from that now, cash flow from that right now. See, a lot of people, and this is where a lot of people screw it up, is they go, I hate what I'm doing so much that I just quit, and I go to a seminar and, they tell me to live my passion and monetize my passion, and shit, I haven't even got any runs on the board. And 6 months later, a year later, I'm still trying to find my passion, and I haven't made any, oh shit, I shouldn't have got rid of it. I've got to still pay the bills. So I'm not saying quit your job, quit anything, and don't do that, because you still got to pay the bills. We live in a commercial world, and you've got to keep the money coming in. Side hustle, start creating some cash on the side, and get it to a point where this is starting to build up. The passion business, I call it the love. Where are we? The love to business and the have to business. Right? Love to, have to. And what you got to do is slowly bring it up to there. Love to all the way and have to no longer. But this period here, where you've got flexibility and you have to, and you've got some cash flow and some time flow and you love to, this is going to be the most busiest part of your life. All right. And then there's going to be, when you've got some runs on the board and you've got some confidence on its future predictions, then what's going to be the tipping point when you're going to go, all right, enough is enough, I'm out. That might be a year, 2 years, 3 year process. But I think too many people go, oh my God, I hate this so much. I love what that person, no, they go bang and quit and don't have any foundation to rely on.
Yes, I agree. I think you're right. I think doing that self-inquiry too, and really checking in with your values and finding, as you said, those mentors or role models that really inspire you, and then cutting the rest of the noise so that you can really grow that awareness. And then I agree with you. I think growing runs on the board and being patient about that is when, from that place of confidence, you'll naturally it'll just take care of itself. You won't have to do anything because at some point you'll need to either let go or leap a little, but it'll feel like those two edges will have come a lot closer together, and it'll feel more survivable and just more natural.
Yeah. I was going to say, I just add to that too, is start to build and build it strong. Build up the best way to put it is your I don't give a fuck muscle. What I mean by that is you must, no matter what you're stepping into, you've got to let go of what people think of you. Earlier is better. Don't hang on to, there's going to be embarrassment. There's going to be social environment. You're going to have to put yourself on video to promote anything these days. It's just the way it goes. So just deal with it. And by the way, the whole world, your mates, your family aren't just sitting there waiting on their keyboard, ready to hate on you as soon as you launch your new website and go towards whatever you go. They're too fucking busy in their own heads. They're too busy with their own shit to worry about how you're going to come out to the world. Who gives a shit? The sooner you get over that, the sooner people get over that, the better.
Trav, I love how you just call it. That's always been my favorite thing about you. And I agree with you. It's that old adage, isn't it? Everyone's worried about what everyone else is thinking about them. But if you then map that to every other person in that room, no one's thinking about you because they're all thinking about everybody else thinking about them. So we're all safe and free to just do as we effing please. So we're going to ask a few really rapid fire questions. First one is, what is your number one top tip to anyone today, something they could do today to elevate their energy? What's your number one go-to?
Write your bucket list on a piece of paper.
Okay, there you go. Write your bucket list, everyone. Number two, well, this could also fall into that. But anyway, what's your number one tip for anyone who wants to elevate their feeling of empowerment? That sense of, I got this.
Write a reverse bucket list on a piece of paper. And what a reverse bucket list is everything that you've done in your life as if it were on a bucket list all the way along. That'll give you a sense of gratitude and foundation to then excel on your future bucket list.
That is awesome. Yeah, because you'd realize just how awesome you already are, right? Wow, yep. That's really cool idea. I love that, guys. Definitely make sure you do that when you're doing your bucket list.
You do that first before you do your future.
Yeah, because then you realize you already ticked heaps of things off, maybe unintentionally. Or unconsciously, I should say. That's awesome. Okay, and then what would be your tip for elevating your sense of expression in the world? So really bringing that empowerment into fulfilled, expressed aliveness in the world.
I'm going to go with it again, but I'm going to go rather than write your own bucket list. For starters, and then tick something, go after the lowest hanging fruit on that list and do it in the next 24 hours. Action it.
Yeah.
Action it. No more Google searching, but action it. Book in for something, pay a deposit on something, phone a friend, do whatever you got to do to take action on it.
Yeah. I love that. And so I'm wondering too, that just a thought that popped into my mind. Have you experienced that just the achieving of the bucket list in and of itself is enough reward? Or do you also on these bucket lists ever put a celebration / reward component? Or is the bucket list itself
definitely
Yeah, so you can go.
Oh, Marina,
Yeah.
the I, for getting the book out, and I got this out just 2 weeks before Christmas, and talk about like 10 years of a battle between perfectionism and procrastination, and it's only this thick. It's
Yeah.
pathetic, but
Not
had to get it
pathetic,
done
no.
thanks to COVID. I'm
Mm.
grateful for COVID and lockdowns, and I couldn't be traveling the world speaking. So I had to get no more excuses. I couldn't go into 2021 without having that done. But as a reward, just talking about rewards, as a reward to myself, and excuse the mess, but I literally rewarded myself with a new
Oh,
deck
wow.
kit. Yeah, so I bought
DJ Bell in the
myself.
house.
Yeah, I bought some decks. Got no idea what the buttons do, but that's not the point. No, I do. I'm learning it.
You look cool when you're.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Hey, so at the end of the day, and I just got some speakers delivered. So one of the things on my bucket list is to actually DJ a live set.
Awesome.
All right, I'm 47. Grow up, mate. You know, like.
Don't
But
grow
the
up.
thing, that's the thing. It's about, and that's an expression of myself. You know, one of the bucket list items, and whatever it is for you, it doesn't matter. But that's a reward that I got for myself pre-Christmas for doing that.
I love that. As I've gotten older, I've dropped a lot more into celebration and reward.
Same. We're pretty hard on ourselves as
Yeah,
entrepreneurs, aren't we?
yeah, we are. We are. And that's also the fire and the drive that gets us where we go. So, final question is, if the rest of this audio got deleted and this video didn't get aired, and all we had was like a sentence, an audio earwig, or a message in a bottle, or a sign on a billboard, but it's Trav Bell's message to the world, and it's this thing that he's like, hey team, just please bloody remember this one thing, because this is really all that, well, this is what mostly matters.
Life is way too short not to live your bucket list like right now. And I'll go with the tattoo. If it is to be, it is up to me. Not up to me, but up to you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I know what you mean. I feel you. And I think that's really true, because without kind of bringing us down a little, but really as a way to activate us into action is, you know, it's all good and well to even think about being dead at 40, but buried at 80. But some of us won't get to 80, not because we're not healthy. I mean, we should all be healthy, prioritize that. But like life happens in, you know, nothing's promised is my point. And so why is the big point, like why wait? Now is the time, right?
A lot of it is honestly about helping people refocus and really, really honestly take ownership over their own life, maybe for the first time, and not be the bitch of COVID, not be the bitch of their circumstance, not be the bitch of their family. Take responsibility over every decision and their lot in life. Be accountable to themselves and take full ownership, as I just said. And that's being a victor. That's playing above a line rather than a victim. People using excuses, blame, denial, and woe is always me. My family, Tracy and the kids, we made a pact to come out of a family pact to come out of COVID stronger and better in every single area of our life. And we have. And we did this deliberately, not to be COVID's bitch. And so we can, just do that to it, because at the end of the day, I found myself going down a downward spiral, reading the stats on the news every night before and after work hours, and then and having an effect. I'm like, hang on, we've got to switch off the inputs here, and take ownership over it. So switch off the inputs, take ownership, and be deliberate, be real deliberate about what years you got left, because we don't know how many we've got.
Yeah, well, as a self-sovereignty coach, I am 100% on board with that message. Amen, amen, amen. That's brilliant. And Trav, you are always a straight shooter and a massive activator. And, I know that everybody listening would have got so much from our chat today and you sharing your wisdom and knowledge. So thank you for who you be in the world, and thank you for what you've devoted your life to, and the thousands and thousands upon thousands of people that you've, I'm sure, saved from way less inspiring and enthralling and fulfilled lives. And that is a legacy. And so you are definitely a man who walks his walk, and I love you, and I'm really grateful for you being on the show. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Marina. Cheers.